Welcome to MLT online classes. So today's subject is immunology and we are going to discuss about complement system. So whenever we are thinking about complement system, we have a tendency. Complement system is a series of small proteins which are heat sensitive that will kill the pathogen by activating C1 to C9 in a series of passion way that will ultimately form something called membrane attack complex that will kill the pathogen. Oh, it is really tough to understand like that. Let me try to break it down as simple as it can be so we can able to understand easily. So before that, I want to tell how a pathogen has been eliminated from the body. How the body eliminating a pathogen. Let us see immune mechanism in a nutshell. So whenever we have a pathogen, let me say tuberculosis bacilli came to the body. So this pathogen can be removed either by, I'm going to tell you three mechanisms to remove a pathogen. Okay, let me show three mechanisms. Tuberculosis. So one way we can kill this pathogen by phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. Our body will remove this pathogen by a mechanism called phagocytosis. Can anyone say what is phagocytosis? Phagocytosis is a phenomenon of engulfing a pathogen by a macrophage and digesting the pathogen, right? Say for example macrophage. Macrophage will come to the site of bacteria and it will start digestion, right? And I hope you know the four stages of phagocytosis. It happens with chemotaxis, attraction of the phagocytic cell towards the pathogen, then attachment, macrophage will attach to the bacteria, then digestion, obviously macrophage will start digesting the pathogen, and last and final is, I'm sorry students, it is ingestion and digestion, right? Attachment, ingestion and digestion. Digestion results in digesting of the pathogen peptide molecules and it will start expressing on the cells of the macrophage, which is also called as APC. That is why it is called APC, antigen presenting. And these antigen presents are given to the helper T cells, and that is a entirely new story, right? So helper T cells, cytotoxic T cell, regulatory. Okay, whatever it is. So we can remove pathogen by phagocytic mechanism, right? So one is by phagocytosis, or let me keep it highlighted. Our body will eliminate a pathogen by phagocytosis, or our body also eliminates pathogens by one more mechanism, which is called as inflammatory mechanism. So what is this inflammatory mechanism? So far we haven't discussed about this inflammation, right? So inflammation is nothing but activation of granulocytes. Can anyone say the examples for granulocytes in our body? Like eosinophils, or basophils. Eosinophils and basophils are one of the granulocytes. And why do I say inflammation to these two? If I activate these granulocytes, they have these granules. And you know what these granules composed of? These granules have inflammatory chemicals such as prostaglandins. Okay, and prostaglandins are one of the potent chemicals that will kill the pathogen by forming something called ROS, reactive oxygen species. And this reactive oxygen species will kill the pathogen ruthlessly. It is like keeping this pathogen in a bucket of acid. What happens if you are in an acid tub? You will digest, right? So similarly, our body will try to kill this pathogen by inflammatory response. So one is by phagocytosis or by inflammatory responses. Or our body also kills pathogen by one important mechanism, which is shooting the pathogen with gun or with bullets, or making holes on the body of the pathogen, or simply it will try to destroy the cell membrane of the pathogen, and that mechanism is called as cytolysis. Cytolysis means lysing of cell membrane. Cell lysis, breakdown of pathogen cell membrane, which results in killing the pathogen, right? So this cytolysis is initiated by a system called complement proteins. So we have something called complement proteins. Complement proteins. These proteins will work together and they will form holes inside the pathogen, and these holes are called as MAC generation. Complement system will make something called MAC. What is MAC? MAC stands for membrane attack complex. Membrane attack complex. So with the help of MAC we can kill the pathogen. So this is the three mechanisms how our body kills a pathogen. 1, 2, 3. Either the body kills the pathogen by phagocytosis, or the body will kill the pathogen by activating inflammatory response, by activating the granulocytes, either eosinophil or basophil. We have many other granulocytes such as mast cells, many cells, okay? All these cells will trigger inflammatory response and they will kill the pathogen. So let me draw pathogen, it is sad. Bacilli. Or we can also kill the pathogen by cytolysis. Cytolysis means by activating complement system. Activated complement system will activate something called membrane attack complex. This membrane attack complex will drill holes in the surface of the pathogen and it will kill the bacilli or bacteria. So when I'm saying all these things, there is one important thing. Do I say complement system plays a crucial role in immune system? Let me say once again, students, how the body came to know phagocytosis, how these macrophages came to know, yes, this is a pathogen and we need to kill it. We already know this pathogen will release something called some hormones or some chemicals that will attract the macrophages towards the pathogen, right? And these chemicals, that phenomenon is called chemotaxis. And the chemicals that are released by the pathogen are called opsocins. Opsocins are the chemicals that are released by the pathogen which will be attracted by the macrophages. Macrophages are attracted towards these opsocins which are released by the pathogen. So what are these opsocins? Believe it or not, students, those opsocins are C3A and C5A. C3A and C5A are the opsocins which are released by the pathogen. By the way, what is this C and what is this C in C3 and C5A? They are complement proteins. So complement proteins plays an important role in phagocytosis. Let me say one thing, students. Complement system will activate both your innate immunity and acquired immunity. I mean your cell mediated immunity and antibody mediated immunity is triggered by complement system. How I will say? So this phagocytosis is mediated by these complement proteins C3A and C3B. The C3A and C3B will act as an opsocins. By these opsocins, macrophages will get attracted towards the site. By the way, this symbol stands for macrophage. This I already discussed. Okay. So with the help of C3A and C5A, opsonization happens. I mean phagocytosis happens. Then what about inflammation? I said in order to kill a pathogen, we should need an inflammatory mechanism, and this inflammation is triggered by granulocytes. Who activated the granulocytes? Obviously, these granulocytes are activated by complement proteins. You know what are those complement proteins? They are C4B and C4B and C3B. C4B and C3B are complement proteins that will activate the granulocytes to initiate inflammatory response, which ultimately results in killing of pathogen. So these three are inflammatory response molecules which are a part of complement proteins. So C4B and C3B involves in inflammation, whereas phagocytosis is mediated by C3 and C5A. Okay, try to understand these names. I will discuss later. Then what about MAC activation? Obviously membrane attack complex is being activated by the complement protein, right? Complement system. So there are some proteins in the complement system which involves in MAC generation. Those proteins include your C5, C6, C7, C8, C9. So from C5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all these proteins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these 5 proteins works together to make MAC, and MAC will kill the pathogen. Okay? See students, no matter what, either phagocytosis or inflammation or cytolysis, all these three are mediated by complement system, complement proteins. For example, also phagocytosis is mediated by complement protein C3A and C5A, and inflammation is mediated by C4B and C3B, and your MAC generation, membrane attack complex, is mediated by C5, C6, C7, C8 and C9. First of all, before that, we need to activate these proteins. Only after activating of these proteins, they will start killing them. So we need one important complement protein, which is C3. C3 plays central role in activation of all complement proteins, in activation of all these phenomena, either phagocytosis, inflammation or cytolysis. All these can be triggered by activating C3. So no matter what, we need to activate this C3. To be precise, that is C3 convertase. C3 convertase. So we need to make C3 convertase. This C3, I will discuss later. Each complement protein has two subunits, a larger unit and a smaller unit. So first of all, we need to activate something called this C3, and activated C3 will in turn activate inflammation, phagocytosis and cytolysis. So how to activate this C3? That is the main concept of this lecture. Activation of complement system and the role of complement system to kill pathogen. So this C3 can be activated by 3 mechanisms. This C3 can be activated by 3 mechanisms. I am writing the names of the mechanism. In the next lecture we can study what are those. Okay. This can be activated by classical pathway. Okay. Classical pathway will activate C3 complement protein, or alternative pathway will activate C3 protein, or we have one more pathway which is called lectin pathway. 1, 2, 3. So all these 3 pathways will activate complement protein C3, which is C3 convertase, and activated C3 convertase will in turn initiate either phagocytosis or inflammation or cytolysis, which ultimately kills the pathogen. So what are the 3 pathways? Classical pathway, alternative pathway and lectin pathway. All these 3 pathways will kill the pathogen. So this is the overview of complement system. See the importance of complement system here. Let me say one more thing. When I say activation, all these complement proteins will activated by antibodies. In classical pathway, antibodies will play a crucial role in activating C3. So antibody mediated complement system activation is seen in classical pathway of complement activation. In classical pathway, antibodies will activate C3 to initiate this complex. To be precise, these antibodies are IgG and IgM. IgG and IgM antibodies plays important role in activation of C3, and that in turn kills the pathogens. So in the next lecture we will discuss in detail about each pathway, how classical pathway works, how alternative pathway works and how lectin pathway works. Okay. Thank you so much students. See you in the other video. Thank you.